Picture this, Halloween night, 1963. The sun has barely set, and already the streets are alive with children. No parents walk beside them. No flashlights pierce the darkness. Just packs of kids, some as young as 5 or 6, running from house to house in costumes that smell of cardboard and sweat. Their plastic masks fog up with every breath, forcing them to lift the edges just to see where they are going. Screen doors slam. Strangers drop homemade popcorn balls into pillowcases, and the sound of footsteps echoes through suburban streets. This was not rebellion, this was not neglect. This was simply Halloween in America, and what those children did on those October nights would send modern parents into absolute panic. The freedom began the moment school bells rang that afternoon. Children raced home, pulled on whatever costume their mothers had cobbled together, grabbed a bag, and disappeared into the neighborhood until someone decided it was late enough to come home. There were no cell phones to check in, no tracking apps, no scheduled pickup times. A child of 7 might knock on doors until 9 or 10 at night, blocks away from home, and nobody called the police. Parents simply believed their children would return when their bags were full and their feet were tired. And they did. Today, children under 12 rarely go trick-or-treating without adult supervision. Parents follow in cars, walk in groups, coordinate routes through neighborhood apps. Back then, the night belonged to children, and that freedom taught lessons no classroom could provide. Every door held possibility, and most of that possibility involved food made by complete strangers. Homemade treats were not just common, they were expected. Mothers spent afternoons dipping apples in caramel, wrapping popcorn balls in wax paper, baking cookies shaped like bats and witches. Children accepted these offerings without hesitation, bit into them on the walk to the next house, and never worried about what might be hidden inside. A housewife might hand you a brownie still warm from the oven, wrapped in nothing but a napkin. You thanked her, ate it immediately, and moved on. Today, hospitals offer free candy screening and parents examine every item under bright lights. Back then, a homemade brownie from Mrs. Johnson down the street was not a threat. It was a gift. The costumes themselves were beautifully dangerous. Most came from dime stores like Woolworth or Ben Cooper, sold in thin cardboard boxes for around $2, roughly $15 in modern money. Inside, you found a plastic smock and a hard plastic mask held on by a thin elastic band. These masks were miracles of poor design. The eye holes never quite lined up. The mouth hole was too small to breathe through. Children spent entire evenings gasping for air, sweating inside plastic prisons, unable to see clearly. They tripped over their own feet. They fell off porches. They walked into street signs and parked cars. Nobody sued the manufacturers. Nobody demanded safety recalls. You just lifted the mask, caught your breath, and kept going. Today, costumes must meet strict flammability standards, have proper ventilation, include reflective strips. Back then, you were lucky if your Batman mask stayed attached long enough to reach the end of the block. Fire was everywhere, and nobody thought twice about it. Real candles burned inside jack-o'-lanterns on every porch, their flames dancing dangerously close to paper decorations and wooden railings, the smell of singed pumpkin mixed with autumn leaves and distant chimney smoke. Children carried those carved pumpkins, never considering that their polyester costumes were essentially wearable kindling. Some kids even played with sparklers while wearing those same flammable outfits. Yet houses did not burn down every Halloween. Kids learned to be careful, or they learned the hard way through singed fingers that taught respect for fire. Today, battery-powered lights have replaced real flames. Back then, Halloween smelled like smoke and melting wax, and the danger was part of the magic. Strangers were not dangerous. They were neighbors you had not met yet. Children rang doorbells and were invited inside to show off costumes. Adults asked them to wait in living rooms while they fetched candy. Some offered to take photographs. Others handed over treats and asked about school. about siblings, about which houses were giving out the best candy. A man you had never seen before might offer you apple cider and ask if you wanted to pet his dog. You said yes, drank the cider, petted the dog, and moved on. Today, stranger danger has made every unfamiliar adult a potential threat. Parents teach children never to enter a house, never to accept drinks, never to trust anyone they do not know. Back then, a child could knock on any door and expect kindness. The trust flowed both ways. Adults trusted children not to vandalize property. Children trusted adults not to harm them. This mutual faith feels almost mythological now. The darkness itself was part of the magic. Most streets had fewer street lights than today, casting weak yellow pools that left long stretches of shadow. Children navigated these dark spaces without fear, cutting through yards, taking shortcuts through alleys. Some kids deliberately sought out the darkest routes because that was where Halloween felt most real. They scared each other, jumped out from behind bushes, tested their courage. Flashlights existed, but most children did not carry them. The darkness was not something to conquer, but something to embrace. Today, parents require children to carry flashlights, wear reflective tape, stay on well-lit main streets. Many neighborhoods coordinate trick-or-treating to happen before sunset. Back then, you disappeared into the dark, and that was half the fun. Trick-or-treating lasted for hours, spanning entire neighborhoods and sometimes beyond. A child might walk 2 or 3 miles in a single night, filling a pillowcase so heavy it had to be dragged along the sidewalk. Younger kids might team up with older siblings, but once you were 7 or 8, you often went with just your friends. No adults followed. You made your own decisions about when to cross streets, which houses looked too spooky, how late was too late. This independence built something in children that is harder to develop today. They learned to read neighborhoods, to trust their instincts, to handle unexpected situations. When you got lost, you found your way home. When older kids tried to steal your candy, you learned to run fast or stand your ground. These were not scary experiences. They were just Halloween, and every challenge made you a little bit tougher. The food safety standards were non-existent by modern measures. Children ate candy corn picked out of bags with unwashed hands. They traded treats on the sidewalk, never checking expiration dates. Some treats had been sitting in displays for months. Kids bit into candied apples without examining them, accepted loose candy without wrappers. Pennies and nickels mixed with the candy. Nobody washed anything. The great candy poisoning scares of the 1970s had not yet happened. Trust was still the default setting. Today, every piece is inspected, anything homemade is discarded, anything unwrapped is thrown out. Back then, the idea that someone would deliberately harm a child through Halloween candy seemed absurd. What those children experienced was freedom mixed with trust, adventure seasoned with genuine risk, and independence earned simply by being old enough to walk. They learned their neighborhoods by navigating them alone in the dark. They learned judgment by deciding which houses to visit. They learned resilience by walking miles in uncomfortable costumes, by dealing with bullies, by finding their way home. These lessons came wrapped in the mythology of Halloween, disguised as fun, delivered through an annual ritual that tested courage in small doses. The holiday was not just about collecting candy. It was about proving you could handle freedom, that you could be trusted, that you were growing up. Today, we protect children from every possible danger, real and imagined. We inspect their candy, monitor their routes, limit their hours, require adult supervision. We have made Halloween safer, but we have also made it smaller. The holiday that once taught independence now teaches caution. The night that once belonged to children now belongs to their parents. Perhaps we have gained something through this protection, but we have also lost something that cannot quite be named, that sense of possibility. That feeling of being trusted to navigate the world alone, if only for a few hours on one October night. Those 1960s children who ran through the dark, Eating food from strangers, trusting everyone, and fearing nothing, they knew something we have chosen to forget. Halloween was not just about candy. It was about becoming brave. If you remember Halloween nights like these wherever you are in the world right now, share your story in the comments. Subscribe to American Memories to keep these stories alive.